So I went ahead and I lightened all the type to match the logo mark we have, so we kind of can get an idea of, I'm pretty sure I want to use color for the typography, so just doing a nice kind of darker gray instead of a harsh black, so I can get a good idea for what a color shade might look like. So right now we're just using Railway typeface this entire time. We haven't even gotten to the idea of font pairing or using two different typefaces yet. So what I did is I copied all of these and I put it in another document so I have that saved. So if I ever wanted to go back and refer to these original ones, I can, because now we're going to look into different typefaces. So now we're just using Railway, and let's go ahead and reduce all of these because it's kind of crazy to change all of these up. Let's eliminate ones we don't think are strong. So I think there's not enough contrast and the weight is way too thin here on this upper right. If I zoom out on this upper right, see right there, it's really hard to make out that type. So let's go ahead and eliminate that as an option. I remember saying this was pretty strong, so let's keep him. We're going to keep him. I think the bottom right is really strong. I think there's not enough spacing here between the characters, and since it's all uppercase and it's also tight spacing, it makes it look almost angry, or give it a more aggressive kind of styling. So I'm actually going to eliminate that one as well. I think the dividing line, we have this really nice, simple, clean icon. I don't think we need a dividing line because I think it's pretty clear the division between the type and the logo mark. So I'm just going to eliminate that as an option. I think this one's might be too horizontal. It might take up too much space to the right. Of course, we can always have a vertical and a horizontal version of the logo. I might keep him around just as an option. I'm just going to kind of tuck him away. And other options. I think we need to probably have more emphasis on Pacific rather than calm because we do have the wave and we're tying it back to the ocean. So I think the ocean and the wave, so I think the word Pacific needs to probably be the one that's bold as opposed to calm, because calm, we don't want to have that be a big angry word either. We want to have that be soft and small with lots of big spacing between it. So I'm going to eliminate that as an option. And I have all these saved, so if I delete it, it's not a big deal. I think this looks good. I really like that smaller calm there. So that's going to hang around. And I think there's not enough contrast between the lettering here. I'm just going to go ahead and eliminate that. I'm not a big fan of that one. I think the lowercase, it doesn't make it a really strong Pacific calm. It kind of wimpy. I know lowercase can be used as softness, but I'm just not really feeling, since this type is standing all alone in space, it probably needs to be capital, just in this case, not always. And so here we are. We only have 3 left. That'll make it easy to find different typefaces. So here's the 3 we're going to find different typefaces for. So you see how quick this whole process has been. It's been about 10 minutes, and we're already making some great progress with our typography. So let's find a really good typeface. We're going to keep those up top. And here we are. We're going to go ahead and scroll through and get a good idea for what type of typeface we want to go for. And so this is where we need to decide, do we want to have a serif typeface or a sans serif typeface? So serifs obviously are great for high-end, elegant brands. They can also look dated if they're used improperly. Sans serifs are modern, they're clean, very contemporary. So it depends. This is where we're going to figure it out. So let's figure that out. Let's pick a few serif typefaces, kind of see what we're thinking of, kind of see how that looks. Okay, so here's some serif typefaces. Let's try a couple more because I'm not really feeling the serif typefaces. It has a nice elegance, but we really want something that looks good when the logo's small, because this is going to be on lots of products and yoga pants and water bottles, and we really want to make sure it's a nice, clear, clean typeface. And sometimes with serifs, they can be great and beautiful, but they can also be very intricate and have small, thinner strokes and serifs. And so it could be a little bit hard to really make out when you're zoomed really far out. So I think in this case, that's making me decide, okay, let's stick with a sans serif typeface. That'll make everything a lot easier. So now that we've determined that, we are getting closer and closer to what we need. So now we know we're looking for a sans serif typeface. So that's got some character to it. It's kind of got some waves in the typography. That's interesting. That's interesting. I can even try this as a lowercase just really quickly. But then again, very, very distinct, very different. And what we have is all these beautiful curves in the logo mark. And wouldn't it be nice to have a typeface that contrasts that? So instead of all the smoothness, you don't want the typeface to compete with the logo mark, and you don't want the logo mark to compete with the typeface. So it'd be nice to have kind of a more cleaner presentation. So let me do our typical Azo Sans black. What I love about Azo Sans is it's very flexible. It's got just really nice, clean, chunky weight. So let's try that out. So now that I'm kind of doing this a little bit more and trying to figure out what sans serif typeface I should use, I'm also starting to figure out, eliminate more options. So right now I think I'm actually going to eliminate this left option, because I'm thinking these two are starting to come out as the stronger one. And I'm really thinking having more contrast. See, that doesn't have as much contrast in terms of the font thickness or weight, but this does. So I'm more and more, I'm starting to whittle this down and starting to really focus on this one a little bit more. But I'm not going to eliminate that quite yet. Let's try a different sans serif typeface. Avenir, that's a nice clean one. Sometimes you got to zoom in and kind of see the specific characteristics of the typeface. So that's going to be way too thin to be practical, although it looks really beautiful. Sometimes when you run into a very thin typeface and you love it and you wish you could use it, but they only come in maybe one weight. Sometimes they come in other weights, and that makes life easy. But if they don't, you can always copy and paste it, and you can add a stroke, and you can kind of thicken it up, and you can go and do a round cap, and you can also do a round join. And you can thicken it up just by adding a stroke to it. So there's some typography or typefaces that look really great thin, but they just don't have a thicker version. And so that's a little cheat that you can do. And you can always do path, outline, stroke to make sure that your stroke doesn't change when you make it bigger. And so this, when it comes to font pairing, if you download that little font pairing cheat sheet guide, I do talk about how serifs pair well, or serifs pair well with sans serifs. And so same thing goes here. Perhaps a serif typeface might pair better with this really nice sans serif. There we go. This one is Minion, I think. Minion Variable Concept. And this one is Azo Sans. And so one thing I do notice when I look, kind of zoom out, that thicker sans serif really is kind of going to be the right choice, because I could really make out Pacific even when I zoom all the way out here. And so this is a really good way to check a logo, and is to check its visibility by zooming out quite a bit. It really helps me make really good design choices and decisions. So with that said, I'm eliminating this, I'm eliminating those. We have our winner. Ding, 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 ding. We have our winner, but there's still a lot to do. We need to get the grid out. So we're going to toggle my grid. And we're going to go ahead and start aligning this so we can get the right balance between the logo mark and the logo type.